Welcome once more to another episode of The Partial Historians. I am a brand spanking new Dr. Rad, and to my left is...
Dr. Greenfield, here as usual. That's all I got.
Alright, fair enough, okay. Well, Dr. G, I'm so glad that you could join me as usual to trace the history of Rome from the founding of the city.
Oh, look, it's pretty exciting times, and we're getting into some really juicy stuff in this episode. When we last left you, it was like all like tenterhooks and everybody dying.
Yeah, a lot of elite funerals happening. You know what they say? There's only two things that are certain in life.
Only the good die young, and a battle is sure to be expedient.
Yeah, and we also had, the Fabian family also coming to the fore once again. They seem to be dominating politics at this point in time.
They do. Even when they die, they're important.
Yeah, they are just too fabulous for words.
I see what you did there. I like it.
Thank you.
Please, continue.
Well, I feel like once more we're in for one of those episodes where you have an awful lot to say, thanks to Dionysius, whereas I, on the other hand, have very little. Livy really did master the art of being concise.
I really wish you guys could see my face right now. It's kind of like the shocked face emoji. Oh God.
The scream.
The scream. Pretty much, yeah. So it is 479 BCE-ish.
Yeah.
And we've just had some untimely Fabian death.
Yep.
We've also had some untimely Fabian resignation from the consulship in order to grieve.
Yes.
And the Senate now goes through this process, which seems to be almost standard for this short period of time, getting some interreges involved.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, carry over the power until...
Such a weird blend, to have... obviously interreges refers to being between kings, so it's just so weird.
It's very weird.
It is weird. I think that's why Livy just decided, you know what, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Thank you very much.
Yes. What does this tell us about Dionysius of Halicarnassus? That he always wants the Romans to have them. Maybe neither of them know what they're talking about.
That's very possible.
It's quite possible. We're in a dark time for Roman history.
Yeah.
In any case, they have a second interact, and they all gather together, and then eventually, Caeso Fabius, perhaps no surprise, is chosen to hold his third consulship.
It's quite a record, I feel like, for this point in time.
Fancy.
Yeah, and I also have Titus Verginius, or Verginius, to say his name properly.
Yes, Titus Verginius Tricostus Rutilus.
Bloody hell, that's a complicated name.
Yeah. Look, we have little bits and pieces start to drop in from the Fasti Capitolini. Capitolini.
And this would be a list of all the magistrates, would it not?
Yes, this would be a list of all the consuls.
Yes.
Specifically. Yes. So we start to get different names start to creep in.
And this is why, dear listeners, we have this this debate happening between historians where they look at what the historians say, so like Dionysius and Livy, and then they're able to look at the lists of names and go, well, hang on a second, that looks like a plebeian name. What the hell? Livy led me to believe that it was very much all patricians at this point in time.
You say, what now?
Exactly, yeah.
But I've got this list and it's written in stone.
Yeah. Again, you know what they say about things.
And the trouble is that we don't know when the list was made. Sad face. So, we've got
Which came first, the list or the history?
Yeah, the names, the list.
Yeah.
And there are moments where we know that our written historians are consulting things like these lists.
Yes.
Increasingly so.
Yeah. In fact, I think Livy's actually already mentioned consulting the lists, I think.
Well, you're reading Livy. I'm not going to gainsay you on that. I assume yes.
Yes.
I believe you.
Good.
And so we have two consuls, Caeso Fabius, Titus Verginius.
Yep.
And surprise, surprise, everybody's going to war.
Really? See, I actually have a little bit of an interesting detail here about these two consuls, which I feel like I should throw in before we get to the war.
Do it.
That they were made consuls because they were liked as much by the plebeians as by the patricians.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Isn't it just? Because, listeners, you might recall, Livy also included this fascinating detail that we talked about last time, where, all the elite funerals are happening, Fabians are mourning, etc., etc. But Livy included this really interesting detail where the Fabian clan sort of earned the respect of the plebeians by looking after them, like looking after the wounded ones after that massive battle. And so there seems like there's a bit of a rapprochement.
It does seem a bit of a turnaround because the Fabii do have a reputation for being pro-patrician.
Totally, yeah. And I don't think they're changing their politics. It's just that I feel like they're becoming more popular.
That's very interesting.
Isn't it just? I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Oh, I think that's going to become useful later on
a
as
Livy bomb.
A little bit of Livy Salt Bay there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there because that's like the first thing he says about them.
Yeah, no, that's good because we do start to see it becomes a moment. We get a few years now in our narrative where the land distribution issue seems to slip out of the narrative a little bit. And I wonder if maybe...
Whereas it's very much in my narrative. This is weird.
Because my speculation was going to be, perhaps the Fabii are carrying a little bit of more plebeian favour, just enough so that this issue sort of slides a little bit down the radar, because the plebeians feel like the Fabians have their back on this now, whereas a few years ago they really didn't. And it's pretty obvious.
If that's what you're saying, I can see how my version of things could fit into this, but I feel like I need to explain how. Okay. So please allow me to do so. Because you so interrupt me all the time, and it drives me crazy. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so...
Maintaining a dignified silence. Oh, the interruptions!
Alright, so, consuls. We know that they're liked by both patricians and plebeians. Okay. Now, apparently, both of these consuls say that they're not going to start a war or even levy troops until there is more unity within the Roman state, as in between the plebeians and the patricians, obviously. Unusual move. Usually, the patricians are holding a loaded gun to the heads of the plebeians and saying, when I say jump, you say how high. So that's not happening. And so he actually goes to the Senate and says, look, before the tribunes can get out of hand again and start pushing for the agrarian law again, why doesn't the Senate make the first move and beat them to it? Why don't we go for the agrarian law?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then he says, we've got this captured land. Why don't we give it to the plebeians? They deserve it. They fought for it. Now,
ooh, smooth move.
I feel like I should pause for a moment because our listeners have probably just fallen off their chairs or fainted. So collect yourselves.
Pick yourselves up, dust yourselves off. Are you ready
now,
for this?
Just before things get too crazy, because this is all sounding like, what? Let me reassure you that the Senate say, no.
We have a proposal. No,
I don't think so. And as you might expect, within the Senate, there's backlash against Caeso Fabius for even suggesting such a crazy, ludicrous notion as being progressive.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. However, it doesn't really descend into massive factional fighting or anything. But it's an interesting lead up to the warfare that comes. Inevitably, as is Rome's want.
Yeah, this is really interesting. This is just not even a part of Dionysius' narrative at this point.
Livy could just kiss you.
Little bit of sweet detail.
That's right, yeah. So I think the reason why that could still fit into your narrative is that I feel like it's after this that the agrarian law again sort of slips out of, slips down the list of priorities.
I just was reading Dionysius and was sort of at some point over the next few pages that I have was that's really slipped off the radar.
Totally,
it's not even being mentioned.
No,
this is a really nice way to tie everything
I think
into
that sort of feels how it happened, where he's like, look, why don't we just be the good guys? The Fabians tried it and it really worked for us. We looked after the wounded and surprise, surprise, they were grateful. They were happy. We were getting along. It was nice. And the Senate's like, yeah, I don't think so.
We're not about nice around here.
No.
We got wars to fight.
Giving land away, that's just so not us. Have you met us?
Dude, this is not the right forum.
Get with the program and get conservative.
Wow.
Yeah. Anywho, so I think that's that nicely explains actually kind of how it slips off the radar.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Anywho, so that's me for the day. Proceed. Entertain me, Dr. G.
Oh no, the pressure.
Well, I've got a war coming up with the Aequii. Is that who you got war with?
Okay. So Fabius, Caeso Fabius, is placed in charge of the war against the Aequii.
Yep. That's what I got too. Yep.
And this seems to go quite well because he gets to Aequian territory and the Aequians are just like, whoa, retreat.
The Romans, what?
Admittedly, the Aequians were in Latin territory plundering.
Yes, so that is what I've got too.
Yeah, so they were in the realm of one of the allies.
Yeah,
so they'd gone out of their own territory and they're like, we're just doing this over here.
Yeah.
So Caeso Fabius turns up.
Just a nice little stroll, getting some booty.
Yeah.
No.
And they're like, oh, whoops, bye.
Yeah. And we're going to go back behind our walls now.
Yeah. So they go home.
Yeah.
And Fabius has what is called an easy victory because he doesn't really need to do anything.
Yeah. The Fabians are on a real roll right now.
Yeah, ravages some territory.
Yeah.
Does some stuff, captures some slave and booty, and he's done with it.
Yeah.
Easy time.
All in a day's work, quite frankly. I would expect nothing less from a Fabian consul. Now, Verginius, on the other hand...
Yeah, a tougher proposition.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He's given the case against Veii.
Veii. I know that we spent a long time talking about Veii, but they've never really dropped out of it, have they?
No. And the thing with Veii that becomes increasingly important is that all of the territory north of Veii, which is considered to be Etruscan, or Tyrrhenian, as Dionysius describes it, as in like not Greek, whatever that's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
Not Roman. There is this sort of like vast expanse, like beyond the frontier, where nobody from Rome really knows how much is going on up there, and Veii's just like their first contact point of these people. And Veii's like, we hate you. And then they're like, what about all of our buddies behind us? And Rome's like, oh, I didn't realize you had so many friends.
I'm sorry, what?
Wait, you guys.
There's stuff beyond Veii?
Yeah, like they're what? How far north do you guys go?
It always trips me out when we do speak about this kind of stuff. Even though I know we mention it every episode, it just bears mentioning that Veii is just not that far from Rome.
No, it's super close.
So the fact that the Romans are having all these like elaborate funerals where these heroes are dying and stuff, and then you look at where Veii is and you're like, huh. Okay.
Like, guys.
Grand narrative much?
A little bit.
Yeah.
And so it's a bit of an issue.
Yes.
So Verginius is given Veii.
Yeah.
Heads up there. Veii, the people of Veii are sort of like, do some successful foraying.
Ooh. Successful foray.
Yeah.
I like that term.
The Romans turn up and the troops of Veii are like, yeah, we're up for it. And they go out and they do some slaughtering and the Romans are like, ooh.
Do you foray on the weekend? I have foraying every Wednesday and Thursday night.
Yeah, look, and so they take a lot of Roman booty, kill a lot of people. The Romans do a bit of a retreat.
Yeah, I get the feeling that Verginius is not anywhere near as capable.
Maybe
according
not.
to this. Livy basically comes flat out and says he's not, in that he doesn't make the best decisions.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only just been placed in charge of an army.
True. I mean, look, one can't always be on point. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
An inexperienced general, perchance.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Livy is very brief in that he basically tells me that he gets assigned Veii, he doesn't make good decisions, and that the Roman army would have been completely destroyed if not for the fact that Caeso Fabius has wrapped things up with the Aequii really quickly and manages to come to his rescue.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, consul looking out for consul. Can't see it right now, listeners, but Dr. Dean and I just totally did like a fist bump explosion.
Consular support.
That's right. Boom.
Okay, so this is where we get a distinct difference in the narrative.
I was thinking you were going to say that. Let me guess. You have a speech.
No, thank goodness. I don't have any speeches for the rest of this book. It's amazing. But Dionysius does bring in one of our smaller players back into the narrative.
Okay.
Titus Siculus. Or Siculus.
Yeah,
the centurion who'd done a good job.
I remember him.
Fine form, good-looking man.
I was going to say he's the hot one, right?
Yeah, the hot guy.
Funny how I remember his name.
He's now a legate.
Titus Siculus, can we get lickula?
That man has been upgraded.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, he deserves it, quite frankly.
Yeah, well, I'd follow him anywhere at this point. He comes along with a relief of infantry troop.
Okay.
And some cavalry.
Right. At the behest of the other consul, or just on his own?
Look, as far as the narrative is concerned, it's just positioned like he was around at the time and he turned up as the occasion befit.
Well.
He's like, saw an opportunity, decided to take
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Took the initiative.
I like it.
Save Verginius's ass, essentially.
Oh, so it's not Caeso. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why that would be.
Look, let's see. I mean, if you had to choose between the good-looking guy turning up or the consul turning up, it's a tough narrative choice.
Yes, it's true.
I mean, both are good.
So what you're saying to me is Dionysius is casting Brad Pitt because he knows it'll get asses on seats.
Yeah, look, no question.
Okay, I can get on board with that.
I'd say it's far more likely that the consul turned up.
Me too. I feel like that makes sense too. Especially,
I'm on Livy's side here.
Especially if he's already been, having a bit of a skirmish with the Aequii. I feel like that's what he would do.
Yeah.
Wrap things up, come to the rescue of...
Yeah, and Aequian territory is relatively close.
True. So that is very true.
They've gone into the Latin territory, which is slightly north and to the east.
Yeah.
And the Aequii are northeast again.
Yeah.
And Veii's just directly north. So really, they're not that far away from each other.
Yeah.
And if Titus Verginius is a legate, who's he a legate for?
True. Yeah. He's not just
out and about on his own.
No. Here he comes to save the day.
Where's your superior commander and officer? Don't know.
Superior? Who's superior to me? Booyah!
Have you seen this?
Yes, right. I'm hot and talented. Oh. Yeah.
I've decided I'm good looking enough to do this on my own.
Yeah, okay. Well, the interesting thing is, I suppose, that regardless of who saves Verginius' ass, it doesn't mean that they're at peace with Veii.
No, not at all.
This. Yeah.
No.
It just means that the Roman army is not wiped out.
They're not just destroyed.
No. And so Livy tells me that there's no peace, it's just kind of détente. And they kind of continue to have this like guerrilla-y, skirmishy type, warfare after that. It doesn't really settle down.
Oh yeah, so this goes back and forth for a while, and actually it goes pretty badly for Rome as far as Dionysius is
I feel like
concerned.
this is their way of saying we didn't win.
We really didn't win, guys.
No.
As far as Dionysius is concerned, the Roman troops that survive settle on a hill nearby Veii.
Okay.
And then Veii's troops emerge and surround the Roman forces, as you do.
Okay, yeah.
Because the hill is a defensive position, but it's also difficult to get supplies in.
Yeah, Spartacus could tell you that. Mount Vesuvius. Hello.
Yeah, look, it happens a lot. Everyone's like, oh, it's a great defensive
High
position.
ground, but...
As long as you all brought your food with you.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like,
and
did you
water.
pack your bars of chocolate?
Totally.
Like, I did not.
If you've got a water source and food, then you're sweet. If not, you're screwed.
Yeah, so this is bad.
Yeah.
So Fabius rocks up at this stage
Yeah.
in Dionysius' narrative. He gets a letter. Somehow a letter gets through.
Right, I was going to say, what?
Yeah, Verginius is like, Dear Caeso Fabius, my co-consul.
Dear Fabius, as I sit here, wondering if I ever will see your sweet consular face again, and also the ass of that hot legate. Damn.
You know what I miss right now? Good-looking commanding officers.
Yeah. We just can't get enough hot legates. Note to self, if I ever live, I will hire more hot legates.
Please save me. P.S. Surrounded by the enemy.
Yeah. I also could use some water and food. Yours sincerely, Verginius.
Fabius receives this letter.
Yeah.
His heart is struck by the plea.
Sure it is.
Breaks his camp, marches straight for Veii.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot of bit of toing and froing, drawing up of forces, people seeing each other, people not being sure that they want to fight.
Okay, yeah.
The people, the Veians.
Veientes?
And their Tyrrhenian allies decide to retreat and just head back a little bit, doing some plundering on their way home.
Of course.
which I don't see how that matters because they're in their own territory.
At a certain point, though, as well, I kind of do wonder to myself, what is left to plunder? There seems to be so much constant skirmishing. What are they taking? Surely all the good stuff is gone.
Yeah,
sorry, that's just
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like they're just like, you know, switching back and be like, that's the vase I got last time and I don't want it again.
So basically they're just doing swapsies.
I think it might be a bit of a swapsy situation at this point.
That has been in our family for generations. Of swapping back and forth between our family and your family, and then
I'm sick of this swapsies.
Yeah.
Whose is it? I don't even know anymore.
It's just got labels all over it. It's not even clothing anymore. It's just labels as we keep relabeling it.
Yeah, so the Romans do a bit of plundering themselves. That seems to go quite well for them. And then Dionysius sort of weirdly describes the Romans being set free from the standards. So like just free to want, weird. And I'm not sure what to make of this at all.
Like a day at the beach?
Like, guys, mufti day.
That is
You
weird.
can go wherever you like today as long as you come back to the standard at the end of the day.
That is really
Yeah,
weird.
it's not at all clear what's happening there. But it seems to be what I'm taking it as, and this is highly speculative because I don't have much to go on, and it frankly just sounds bizarre, is that at some point what consuls can do is release the troops from the standard and just tell them that they can make their own way home if they think it's safe to do so, rather than taking them in formation back to the city.
Is that because formation invites attack? Or is it because
It might be because
they can't be bothered to get food for them anymore?
Yeah, it depends on where their people are coming from, where they've levied the troops and stuff. So if they live actually in nearby territory, why march them back to the city if they're just going to have to go back slightly north again anyway and be like, look, you know, make your own way home. You all know where you belong. And everyone's like, yep, my duty is done. As a levied soldier, not a professional army, I am free to go home.
Okay.
And I shall.
Okay, I get you. Yep.
So at that point, the Venetians start then going out to like look after their own fields under armed protection.
I love that vision of people farming with guards.
Yeah. So the guards
Who knew
are out.
farming could be so dangerous?
Yeah. But this is a bit of a cover. And they just move further and further south.
This is hilarious.
So they're like, oh, well, the Roman troops have dispersed. So we're just going to go out and with some protected farming. And they use this as a cover to move further and further south.
We're literally sowing the seeds of discontent.
And they get so far into Roman territory that they make it to Mount Janiculum.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Listeners, we've spoken about Mount Janiculum before when talking about the Romans doing stuff in their town.
Yeah, but it's not really part of the Roman city.
No, but like it's close enough that they would kind of consider it, you know, like a suburb, I suppose.
It's Roman territory.
Yeah.
It's not part of Mount Janiculum's not part of the ancient Seven Hills.
No.
So it's outside of that range.
Yeah.
But if you go to Mount Janiculum today, which you can, it is in the center of town in many respects. Like it's a hill,
now.
that you can, and you've got this great view of the city. So you have to imagine Rome being much smaller and away in the distance at some point from this Mount Janiculum, being a little sort of hastily erected type of village town thing, and we're not sure what the buildings even look like at this point. But Mount Janiculum is considered to be within like reasonable viewing and marching distance from
the Romans
Rome, the city.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Romans would definitely be like, that is ours.
Yeah. So the Romans freak out.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, they go a little bit crazy.
Wait, are they still farming at this point, or are they suddenly gone, ha, we weren't farming at all?
Yeah, I think they've sent the farmers back now.
Right.
Like, the roost is over, guys.
Okay.
We're now here. We'll do something from here.
Can't believe you thought we were farming. Losers.
No, it's not farming. Moving the troops south. So the Senate calls together everybody, and they're like, we have to come up with a new policy. This is not good.
A new policy as
in terms of like how we deal with Veii.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah,
gotcha.
like our standard procedure.
So you made it like how we deal with warfare. I'm like, surely this is calls for soldiers. I've got it, guys. We're going to have jazz hands.
I want you to try spirit fingers on these guys. I don't know if they're ready for that.
Cartwheel, cartwheel, cartwheel. Turn, push.
If we dance in formation, it'll be like West Side Story. No, it's not going to be a dance battle, sadly.
When you're from Veii, you're from Veii, all the way from...
If only.
Yeah.
They're actually pretty scared. Veientes comes out, they can see the city, and they're like, what do we do? Mm-hmm. And they're like, we need to have a standing army on the frontier. This levying
armies,
levying troops every year from Rome.
It has been notoriously problematic.
Been a real problem, let's face it. Difficult to do, and people don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But what we need, and what would be good, is if we could maintain an active force in a fort on the edge of the territory with Veii.
Now, I could be swinging wildly here, but
swing wildly.
I feel like my narrative and yours is going to collide now.
Ooh.
Is this where the Fabian clan puts their hand up and says, you know what, don't worry about it, we'll do it?
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, cool. All right, I'm back in the game.
And you're in. Livy is
I'm
back.
In. Tap me in. Okay. No, you continue with where you got your version of the Fabian.
Okay. And then you can tell me how wrong it is according to Livy. I'm looking forward to this.
Okay.
So it's positioned by Dionysius of Halicarnassus that the Senate is well aware that there are two key problems with this new policy.
Right.
One, they're very low on funds. So how are they going to make it work?
I'm not at all shocked.
Everybody's very unhappy by the burden of war taxes, which has been happening every year since the Republic began.
Yeah. And before.
Yeah. And who would even be willing to serve?
Yes.
Because this is something where you would have to leave Rome and actively just live all of your life on the frontier.
Army. Yeah, exactly.
With the army.
Yeah.
And that this is upping the ante in terms of like Roman army professionalism.
Yes.
Being like...
And commitment.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not just you might be called up once a year, every 5 years or something to serve. It's like, you will be a soldier and your job is to look after this frontier. Yeah. And we're somehow going to have to pay you and supply you to make sure that
to make that worth your while. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, correct me if I'm wrong. I know we have that core of the army where we've got like the elite soldiers and stuff that we've talked about before. But Rome still, nonetheless, those guys are just elite warriors as an experience. They're not like a standing army.
No.
So this is... They don't even have a standing army for the city.
No.
Yeah.
This is why they got so many problems. Because, they keep kind of...
No problems,
keep trying to co-opt those plebeians. And they're like, I've got stuff I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
Like, I have some land.
I just want to farm and eat the food. Like, just 1 year. Just 1 year I'd like to stay at home.
I'd like to chill out with my family and, like, try to grow some crops.
I'm having flashbacks to me saying, I just want to stay home just one night of the week and just chill out in front of the TV. I can't even imagine how these guys must feel.
Yeah. Year on year. So there's that problem. And the Senate is... while quite intractable on giving anybody any public land,
of course,
seems to realise that it's going to be a pretty tough task to convince anybody to do this job. They're like, this is a great idea. How would we even make that work?
Yeah.
And it's at that point where the last of the two Fabii brothers, because one is dead. Sadly, Quintus died last year. But Caeso is the current consul.
Caeso's still there.
Caeso's consul, and he's like, I'm ready to talk about this issue, and I'm a consul, so I will. And he's like, and I have the support here of my excellent brother Marcus, who retired from the consulship last year because he was grief-stricken. And he's ready as well. And they're like, we have talked to our clan, our broader family, and we've talked to our clients, and we've talked to our friends, and we're willing to take on this ourselves.
Which is really interesting. This is one of those classic Roman virtuous moments, guys, because it's all about the self-sacrifice for the state, taking on the burden for presumably little in return apart from honor, maybe glory, hopefully glory.
Look, there's got to be the teaser of glory, I think. They also said that they would fund the expense of maintaining the frontier themselves.
Exactly,
as long as the war goes on.
It just goes to show how redonkulously wealthy the patricians must have been. To be able to make this worth the while of your family, your clients, your friends, that they'll all go, yeah, sure, yeah. It'd be like, road trip, yeah, I'm on board.
I love you guys, let's all go together. Yeah.
To fund it. It's insane. It's like me saying that, you know, I know. New South Wales wants to make sure that there's no future conflict with Queensland. So I'm just going to take the Radford family and we're going to trot along to Queensland and just hang. And we won't have jobs or anything, but we're just going to hang there and I'll fund it for as long as it lasts. No worries.
Don't worry, guys. I got you back.
It's crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So the Fabii volunteer. So this is perhaps a power move of some kind.
True. Yeah.
They do seem to be the most preeminent family. They've held the consulship now for years.
Oh yeah, they've been everywhere.
Yeah. The Fabii domination of the consulship is an indication of just how much power and wealth that they do have.
Absolutely,
and have maintained and accrued and presumably increased over that period of time.
And let's face it, it's not like, this is the thing, I say honour like it's a light repayment, but as you point out quite rightly, the Romans derive a lot of their political clout from just that kind of thing. So it is a payment in kind, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like they've got a lot of what I suppose would be soft power at this point.
Exactly.
You know,
yes.
the reputation counts for a lot.
Yeah, oh totally. Well, and I mean, let's face it, we're looking at a time where realistically Rome is not like, it doesn't seem to have a very firm law code that's been like written down or anything like that. They are more or less like, as much as they might not like us to say this, they are muddling things along as they go. They are figuring it out as they go. So
look, it took them like 20 years to come up with the idea of a fort.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like the Romans. Obviously, I'm interested.
Yeah.
But guys, this was a long time coming.
But this is why the agrarian law is also still such a problem. They're still negotiating where everyone sits in the Republic.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not final. So, you know.
And this decision actually takes some pressure off that situation as well.
True.
Because all of a sudden, if you've got a bunch of people who are paying their own way to sit on the frontier for you, that's a whole bunch of people you don't have to levy every year. So that's a whole bunch of people who perhaps aren't going to complain so much.
And this is exactly it. This is why we always felt so bad for the plebeians, because they, generally speaking, actually only kick up a fuss when once again they're going to be taken off their land, which means once again they can't farm, they can't harvest, which once again means they got no food, they got no money, which once again means they have no way of paying the war taxes, etc., which once again means they get into debt, which once again means screwed.
It just goes on and on and never ends.
But you were totally right. If you take that out of the equation, then they actually can just look after, they can have some me time. They can just look after themselves.
Build up the crop stores.
Yeah, exactly. Well, which is obviously necessary. So,
super important.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the Fabii accrue lots of nobility points for this one. Veientes, mad Veientes.
Yeah. Otherwise known as auctoritas.
Yeah. And Marcus Fabius, as the non-consul brother at this time, is like, I'll head it. I'll lead it. Don't you worry. I got the chops for this.
Yep.
And everyone's like, cool. So they send the Fabian clan, all 306 men. A very specific number.
That is very specific. And quite small, which it makes sense given the scale of things we've talked about, but it's not the largest army I've ever seen.
No, but I mean...
My school is larger, quite frankly.
When you add in the clients and the friends, they're about 4,000.
Oh, sorry, 306 for the Fabians.
Yeah. Actual Fabians.
Gotcha.
Like dudes who are like Fabii.
I gotcha.
Yeah. But they're about 4,000, and
that sounds more like it.
Yeah, they set out to build the fortress.
Yeah.
And then they're followed a little bit later on by Caeso Fabius with his consular army.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So then what happens is really quite interesting, because this becomes clear that this is a really interesting and potentially enriching decision for the Fabii.
Yeah.
Because we finally have something crop up in the narrative, which is called Chimera.
Oh, Chimera. Yeah.
And Chimera is this thing that a lot of people in this early period of Roman history really hold on to as this like pivotal thing.
Yeah.
It's actually the name of a river.
So the location.
Yeah.
Location.
It's a tributary river of the Tiber.
Yeah.
And
again, just pointing out how close we are to Rome.
We are very close to Rome.
Yeah.
I mean, the Tiber is a long river, but this is a very close tributary.
Yeah.
And it's on this tributary that the city of Veii sits.
Yes.
And at some point along this river, it's decided that this will be where the Fabii build the fortress.
Yeah.
So they're situated sort of partway between Veii, and much closer to Veii than they are to Rome.
Yeah.
But sort of halfway in, like sort of in betweenish.
And they sort of are going to use this to sort of carry on like more of the skirmishy, guerrilla-y type actions that have characterized recent interactions between they and Rome.
Yes. Yeah. And so they quickly go about building this fortress.
Yeah.
The whole thing's quickened up by the presence of Caeso and his army as well.
Yeah.
So all the Fabii are in it together helping out. And once that's built, they start doing some incursions into Tyrrhenian territory.
Yeah.
And this is where things become interesting because the Fabii say that they're going to pay for this themselves.
Yeah.
And what Caeso Fabius does with the plunder that he takes from those incursions is not give any of it back to Rome. He gives it all straight to the Fabii at the fortress.
I think this is what ties into, at least in translation, what Livy's account says, which is that, I mean, don't get me wrong, Livy is freaking wetting himself over how awesome the Fabii are. And yeah, clearly, his account is just like, the Senate's like, oh my god, like, I can't believe you would do this for me. It's like, the nicest thing. Like, literally, like anyone ever done for me. It's just like, Okay, so the Senate has that moment when the Fabii make that offer. And they're all like, yes, for God's sake, 1,000,000 times yes. Our answer is yes. Wage war. Wage war. Go right ahead. So, that's all pretty much standard. But what he then says is that this is unusual. Everyone's happy with it, but so unusual that this essentially becomes a private war between the Fabii and Veii. It's no longer between Rome and Veii. And I think this is because, as you say, it's privately funded and the money is going...
It's going in a nice little circle,
exactly.
Fabii circle.
Yeah, exactly. And, oh my God, this just makes me think of America right now. Let's make it a private corporation. Let's let them out. Let's outsource it. Let's not have the government involved.
Privatize, my friend.
Exactly.
That's where this is going.
Yeah.
I think this is fascinating.
Yeah.
I've upped the ante. It's no longer interesting. It's fascinating.
Whoa.
I know. I don't have a huge vocabulary.
I'm
going for it now.
Like pushing boiling point.
Because Caeso Fabius is still in command of the army as consul.
Exactly. He is the government.
He is the representative of Rome in the field right now.
Yeah.
And he does this, what appears for all intents to be a highly sneaky and I'm guessing
patricians?
Not a legal move because they don't have any laws to cover stuff like this.
But this is what I mean. Like, this is not something that they've covered. It is so uncharted territory, and everyone, I think, is just so freaking relieved that this is happening, as in the Fabii are taking care of it, that I don't think they even want to think about it. I don't think they want to think about the implications. Because, from my point of view, which is highly biased, this isn't a good solution. Or perhaps I should say, it is a worrying precedent.
It's going to cause some problems, I think. I think about the soldiers who are serving under Caeso Fabius. Presumably, they're relatively loyal, although he's had trouble with loyalty in troops in the past.
True.
On the other hand, it's now positioning the Fabii fortress at Chimera as like this new place to gain honor. Veientes, your sacrifice, the booty. Maybe you could live a better life here.
You think it's like a rival state almost.
It's got all of the potential.
Well, see, this is interesting because this is what this kind of ties into when I was trying to do a bit of reading because there just is not much on this period. I was reading about like Mary Beard's opinion of this period. Which is just, such a hazy period, as we've said. And I think she kind of sums it up quite neatly in that it smacks of Rome actually, just being so small scale that you have like local warlords who have a gang, not an army, who, can do this kind of crap.
They're like, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah, but it does, it's so like feudal,
I think it says...
It's like the mafia meets the feudal system.
Well, and it says something about Rome's inability to understand that it's overreached as well. Like,
that you need to have this happen.
Like they're trying to do things that are beyond the scope of what their army is capable of under the organization that they currently have.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, how do we solve this problem? But maybe by attempting to solve this problem, they're actually revealing the fractures of their own society.
Absolutely. I mean, as I say, to have anyone who is that wealthy, and the way that the Roman system works, in some ways I like the idea of clients and having loyalty and that kind of stuff, but it shows you just how dangerous that can be if you've got loyalty to a family and people, like leaders of that, like Caeso and Marcus, rather than to the state. If people are depending on private benefaction, yes, it works well, I suppose, if you've got lots of people and there's competition. But the second you don't have that, it's danger territory.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Livy sort of throws in a little bit more detail in terms of... I know. Dr. G was just like, what? Her face. Before he sort of set all this up, one of the things that he throws in terms of what you were talking about Rome overreaching itself, is that it wasn't actually just about Veii at this time either. The Romans are sensing war coming with the Aequii, with the Volscii,
it's
with
coming
the
from
Fabians.
all directions.
Exactly, and it clearly hasn't happened yet, but they can sense, and like you said, particularly from the north, like from the Etruscan territory, they can clearly sense. I think they can feel like the noose around their neck and it's tightening, and they know disaster's coming. So that's why they're so relieved when this happens, and I don't think they think it through if it happened. Always have to throw that in.
Asterisk if it happened.
If it happened. But I kind of feel like this actually sounds, as you say, it sounds real.
It sounds like they finally come up with an alternative to the thing that they've been doing over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we're into new territory, which is good.
Yeah.
Some ideas are happening. Whether they turn out to be good ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Is anybody's guess.
I mean, look, let's face it. It's probably not going to be the worst thing for a while, but I feel like at some point we're going to come back to this and go,
whoa,
the Fabian.
That was a sign, my friends, a sign of things to come.
Should we pause at this moment?
I think this is an excellent time in the narrative to pause. Like, this is basically, we've gotten to the end of 479.
Yes, exactly.
As a year.
Yes.
That, the key thing is this idea of the fortress. So I think we're ready.
Okay, all right. So that means it's time for the partial pick.
Amazing eagle sound.
So high tech.
Incredible.
Okay, Dr. G, so what do we got first off the board?
Ooh, so out of 10 eagles in each of the 5 categories, our first category is military clout.
Okay, well, we've definitely got some more to work with than we've actually had kind of recently.
That's true. Stuff is different now.
Yeah. This is a hard one to judge because the Fabii is like a weird military thing. But I feel like I got to give them some credit. I feel like it's got to be a 6 from me.
Yeah, and we also got to balance that against their what appears to be a relative defeat.
That's what I mean.
Prompted this.
I feel like they're trying to paint it in a really good light, but I feel like Rome is not in a good place. But at the same time, they haven't been they're holding on. They haven't been out and out defeated. And the Fabii is a band-aid solution. I'll give them that.
Hence the 6.
Exactly. So I feel like it's got to be more than a 5, but that's just my opinion. What's your take?
Yeah, no. I think that's good on the balance because they've made a decision.
Yes.
They've had a bit of a moment, a scare.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Who are those people on that mountain over there? Oh, goodness. Quick, come up with a solution.
What? We've alienated everyone in the nearby territory, but we're so cuddly. Okay, cool. All right, so we've got 6 golden eagles for military clout.
Diplomacy.
Ooh.
I don't know if there's much diplomacy going on.
No. I think
everybody kind of comes to decisions. There's no arguments. So I suppose if you've got something like the Senate meeting being like, we need to do a thing, and they come up with an idea, is that diplomacy? It's not diplomacy with other peoples.
This is what I'm thinking. Are we counting it as diplomacy just foreign, or are we thinking about internal?
Internal diplomacy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we might just say foreign because otherwise it's going to get too complicated. So let's say foreign diplomacy. They're fighting people.
That's a no.
Yeah. So I guess there's no real negotiations
I
going
think
on
that
here.
puts it down to about a 0.
They do come to the aid of their allies, though, at the very beginning of the episode.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah. Okay,
like,
2.
Yeah, okay, we'll give them a 2. We're up to 8. Okay, cool.
Expansion.
Okay, expansion. They are definitely not expanding. If anything, they're shrinking. So I think it's got to be a 0.
That's a 0.
Yeah, okay.
Veientes.
Ooh. Now
If you're a Fabian.
If we're doing it from their point of view, I feel like we're high in the Veientes scale today.
Yeah. Well, Veientes is about the individual.
Yeah. I feel like we've got to give them maybe like an 8.
Ooh, nice.
What do you reckon? Yeah. Purely for the Fabian contributions.
They come together and they make a really, what is actually like a highly sort of honourable moment of sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this is something that we think is important and needs to happen, and we can see the difficulties and we're willing to step up.
Exactly, because whilst
they're
getting a lot of, as you say, soft power out of it potentially, it's still going to take time. It's going to take money. Oh, it's going to take time. And also, there's a fairly good chance that they could massively fail. So, and they're literally putting their lives on the line. So, yeah. And whilst I look at this skeptically because of my own viewpoint right now, which is hating capitalism and America's fear of big government, I can appreciate that for the Romans, at the point that they're in, where it's so small scale, etc., that's not a valid point of view for me to have.
Yeah, look, it's they're not going to become any bigger than what they are unless individuals step up and do
something. It's not like
something.
the Fabii are going to turn around and go, guess what, guys? We're Walmart now. And we're taking over everything. I don't know why I picked Walmart. But anyway, okay, so we've got 16 for so far. Final one, citizen score.
Citizen score.
Historically, this has been very low, but I actually feel like there's been a little bit of improvement.
Yeah, this might be a bit of a win for the citizens, because if you've got a standing force out on the frontier, the levy is going to be lower. It would have to be, unless Rome's intention is, unfortunately, perhaps to levy as many soldiers but send them in the other directions where they've got issues.
Possible, but that has not happened as of yet.
Can't guarantee that that's going to happen.
Yeah, apart from, we've got the consular army, but apart from that, we're not hearing of any discontent in either of our sources from the plebs. And even when they are being levied, like earlier on, there's no massive complaints, and it seems like for a while they're happy with their leaders. As you say, they might not be doing things that are hugely progressive as far as the citizens are concerned, but they're not hating their guys.
The citizens aren't suffering
so
overtly that it's been mentioned in the source material.
Pretty much, which is a win.
Does that make it a 5?
I feel like it's got to be a 5, I feel like it's got to be a 5. So that actually takes us over the 20 mark.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Rome.
Not a pass. We're still pretty low, but we were up to 21 golden Roman eagles
Nice.
this week.
Congratulations, Rome. Getting better all the time.
Exactly, All right, well, join us to find out what happens to the Fabian clan next.